Hello everyone and welcome back to The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. I am here in Breeze home with Faendal, and I figured since I have a few books now in my collection, I should probably go ahead and read some of the other ones that I have in my inventory. So we're going to do a little segment here that I call Storytime with Melithrill. We're going to start off with Argonian Account Book 1. The Argonian Account, Book 1 by Waughin Jarth, or Waughin Jarth, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. On a minor but respectable plaza in the Imperial City sat, or perhaps lounged, Lord Vanek's building commission. It was an unimaginative, austere building, but not noted so much for its aesthetic or architectural design as for its prodigious length. If any critics wondered why such an unornamented, extended erection held such fascination to Lord Vanek, they kept it to themselves. In the 398th year of the Third Era, Decimus Scotti was a senior clerk at the Commission. It had been a few months since the shy middle-aged man had brought Lord Vanek the most lucrative of all contracts, granting the Commission the exclusive right to rebuild the roads of Valenwood, which had been destroyed in the 5-year war. For this he had become the darling of the managers and the clerks, spending his days recounting his adventures, more or less faithfully, although he did omit the ending of the tale, since many of them had partaken in the celebratory Unthrapa roast provided by the Selenstri. Informing one's listeners that they've gorged on human flesh improves very few stories of any good taste. Scotti was neither particularly ambitious nor hard-working, so he did not mind that Lord Vanek had not given him anything to actually do. Whenever the squat little gnomish man would happen upon Decimus Scotti in the offices, Lord Vanek would always say, "You're a credit to the Commission. Keep up the good work." In the beginning, Scotti had worried that he was supposed to be doing something, but as the months went on, he merely replied, "Thank you, I will." There was, on the other hand, the future to consider. He was not a young man, and though he was receiving a respectable salary for someone not doing actual work, Scotti considered that soon he might have to retire and not get paid for not doing work. It would be nice, he decided, if Lord Vanek, out of gratitude for the millions of gold the Valenwood contract was generating, might deign to make Scotti a partner, or at least give him a small percentage of the bounty. Decimus Scotti was no good at asking for things like that, which was one of the reasons why, previous to his signal successes in Valenwood as a senior clerk for Lord Atreus, he was a lousy agent. He had just about made up his mind to say something to Lord Vanek when his lordship unexpectedly pushed things along. "You're a credit to the Commission," the waddling little thing said, and then paused. "Do you have a moment free on your schedule?" Scotti nodded eagerly, and followed his lordship to his hideously decorated and very enviable hectare of office space. "Zenithar blesses us for your presence at the Commission," the little fellow squeaked grandly. "I don't know whether you know this, but we were having a bad time before you came along. We had impressive projects, for certain, but they were not successful. In Blackmarsh, for example, for years we've been trying to improve the roads and other routes of travel for commerce. I put my best man, Flessus Tiho, on it. But every year, despite staggering investments of time and money, the trade along those routes only gets slower and slower. Now we have your very clean, very, very profitable Valenwood contract to boost the Commission's profits. I think it's time you were rewarded." Scotti grinned a grin of great modesty and subtle avarice. "I want you to take over the Blackmarsh account from Flessus Tiho." Scotti shook as if awakening from a pleasant dream to hideous reality. "My lord, I couldn't." "Nonsense," chirped Lord Vanek. "Don't worry about Tiho. He'll be happy to retire on the money I give him, particularly as soul-wrenchingly difficult as this Blackmarsh business has been. Just your sort of challenge, my dear Decimus." There's only one dear. I don't know why I said two. Scotti couldn't utter a sound, though his mouth feebly formed the word "no," as Lord Vanek brought out the box of documentation on Blackmarsh. "You're a fast reader," Lord Vanek guessed. "You can read it all en route to Blackmarsh, of course." The tiny fellow giggled. "You are a funny chap. Where else would you go to learn about the work that's being done, and how to improve it?" The next morning, the stack of documentation hardly touched, Decimus Scotti began the journey southeast to Blackmarsh. Lord Vanek had hired an able-bodied guard, a rather taciturn red guard named Malik, to protect his best agent. They rode south along the Niben, and then southeast along to the Silverfish, continuing on into the wilds of Cyrodiil, where the river tributaries had no names and the very vegetation seemed to come from another world than the nice civilized gardens of the northern imperial province. Scotty's horse was tied to Malik's, so the clerk was able to read. It made it difficult to pay attention to the path they were taking, but Scotti knew he needed at least a cursory familiarity with the Commission's business dealings in Blackmarsh. It was a huge box of paperwork going back 40 years, when the Commission had first been given several million gold by a wealthy trader, Lord Zelicles Pino Servina, to improve the condition of the road from Gideon to Cyrodiil. At that time, it took 3 weeks, a preposterously long time, for the rice and root he was importing to arrive, half rotten, in the imperial province. Pino Servina was long dead, but many other investors over the decades, including Pelagius IV himself, had hired the commission to build roads, drain swamps, construct bridges, devise anti-smuggling systems, hire mercenaries, and, in short, do everything that the greatest empire in history knew would work to aid trade to Blackmarsh. According to the latest figures, the result of this was that it took 2.5 months for goods, now thoroughly rotten, to arrive. Scotty found that when he looked up, after concentrating on what he was reading, the landscape had always changed, always dramatically, always for the worse. "This is Blackwood, sir," said Malek to Scotty's unspoken question. It was dark and woodsy, so Decimus Scotty thought that a very appropriate name. The question he longed to ask, which in due course he did ask, was, "What's that terrible smell?" "Slow Point, sir," Malek replied as they turned the next bend, where the umbrageous tunnel of tangled tree and vine opened to a clearing. There squatted a cluster of formal buildings in the dreary imperial design favored by Lord Vannick's commission, and every emperor since Tiber, together with a stench so eye-blindingly, stomach-wrenchingly awful that Scotty wondered suddenly if it were deadly poisonous. The swarms of blood-colored, green sand-sized insects obscuring the air did not improve the view. Scotty and Malek batted at the buzzing clouds as they rode their horses towards the largest of the buildings, which on approach revealed itself to be perched at the edge of a thick black river. From its size and serious aspect, Scotty guessed it to be the Census and Excise office for the wide, white bridge that stretched across the burbling dark water to the reeds on the other side. It was a very nice, bright, sturdy-looking bridge, built, Scotty knew, by his commission. A poxy, irritable official opened the door quickly on Scotty's first knock. Come in, quickly. Don't let the flesh flies in." "Flesh flies?" Decimus Scotty trembled. "You mean they eat human flesh?" "If you're fool enough to stand around and let them," the soldier said, rolling his eyes. He had half an ear, and Scotty, looking around at the other soldiers in the fort, noted that they were all well chewed. One of them had no nose at all to speak of. "Now what's your business?" Scotty told them, and added that if they stood outside the fortress instead of inside, they might catch more smugglers. "You better be more concerned with getting across that bridge," the soldier sneered. "Tide's coming up, and if you don't get a move on, you won't get to Blackmarsh for 4 days." That was absurd. A bridge swamped by a rising tide on a river? Only the look in the soldier's eyes told Scotty he wasn't joking. Upon stepping out of the fort, he saw that the horses, evidently tired of being tortured by the flesh flies, had ripped free of their restraints and were bounding off into the woods. The oily water of the river was already lapping on the planks, oozing between the crevices. Scotty reflected that perhaps he would be more than willing to endure a wait of 4 days before going to Blackmarsh, but Malek was already running across. Scotty followed him, wheezing. He was not in excellent shape, and never had been. The box of commissioned materials was heavy. Halfway across, he paused to catch his breath, and then discovered he could not move. His feet were stuck. The black mud that ran through the river was a thick, gluey paste, and having washed over the plank Scotty was on, it held his feet fast. Panic seized him. Scotty looked up from his trap and saw Malek leaping from plank to plank ahead of him, closing fast on the reeds on the other side. "Help!" Scotty cried. "I'm stuck." Malek did not even turn around, but kept jumping. "I know, sir. You need to lose weight." Decimus Scotty knew he was a few pounds over, and had meant to start eating less and exercising more, but embarking on a diet hardly seemed to promise timely aid in his current predicament. No diet on Nirn would have helped him just then. However, on reflection, Scotty realized that the Red Guard intended that he drop the box of documents, for Malek was no longer carrying any of the essential supplies he had with him previously. With a sigh, Scotty threw the box of commissioned notes into the glop and felt the plank under him rise 1/4 of an inch, just enough to free him from the mud's clutches. With an agility born of extreme fear, Scotty began leaping after Malek, dropping onto every third plank and springing up before the river gripped him. In 46 leaps, Decimus Scotty crashed through the reeds onto the solid ground behind Malek and found himself in Blackmarsh. He could hear behind him a slurping sound as the bridge, and his container of important and official records of commission affairs, was consumed by the rising flood of dark filth, never to be seen again. Oh man, okay, that was quite a read. I actually think I don't really want to read anymore right now. I thought it was going to be a longer installment, but man, some of these books in this game, they can get quite long. I also want to read book 2 before heading on to book 3. But I guess maybe we could read Dunmer of Skyrim. That's probably not that long of a book, I'd imagine. The Dunmer of Skyrim by Athal Sarys. Okay, give me a second here. Alright. Dunmer, that is our name, yet you deny us even this courtesy. You, the white-skinned, jaundice-haired apes of this god-forsaken frozen wilderness. To you Nords, we are the grey ones, the ashen-skinned, the dark elves of Morrowind, who have as much place in your land as an infection in an open wound. Oh yes, we have read your great cultural work, Nords of Skyrim, in which you extol the many virtues of your people and province, and invite any visitors to come experience your homeland for themselves. Well, come we did, Nords, and the reception was less than was promised, but exactly what we expected. So I, Athal Sarys, Dunmer, and immigrant to Skyrim, have decided to answer your beloved book with a work of my own, and let all who read it know that Nords are not the only race to reside in this cold and inhospitable realm, for we Dark Elves have come, and little by little shall claim Skyrim as our own. But where, you may ask, have we taken up residence? Why, none other than the ancient city of Windhelm, once the capital of the First Empire. Yes, Nords, in the shadow of your own Palace of the Kings, where the Nord hero Ysgramor once held court, we now thrive. Oh yes, your beloved 500 companions may have driven our ancestors from Skyrim, but that was then. This is now. Indeed, one might be surprised as just how well we've settled into Windhelm. The district once known as the Snow Quarter is now named no more. Now they call it the Grey Quarter, for such is the reality of the Dunmer occupation. The district is now populated entirely by my kind, a victory not lost on its residents. Oh, but the peaceful occupation goes even further. Thirsty, you'll find no Nord mead hall in the Grey Quarter, but the spirits flow well enough in the new Nisus Corner Club. Seeking a respected family, you'll find no Greymanes within these walls, but perhaps you'd like to pay a visit to the home of Belin Halalu, descendant of one of the most noble houses in all of Morrowind. Ah, but no, you Nords don't come to the Grey Quarter, do you? You fear our streets as you fear our skin. So now, children of Skyrim, you have the truth of it. You may call this province home, but you can no sooner claim to own it than a cow can claim to own its master's field. You are just another breed of domestic animal, grazing stupidly while higher beings plot your slaughter. Damn. I don't know if it's a good idea to pen a book detailing how you're going to kill all the other people in the city that you live in. Like, that seems a little bit ill-advised, in my opinion. I guess we'll read The Woodcutter's Wife as well. The Woodcutter's Wife, Volume 1, as told by Mogen Son of Molag. Alright. Legend tells of a woodcutter who built a shack deep within the pine forest. There he hoped to live in peace with his family. The woodcutter's family lived well for a time, but without warning, the weather turned bitterly cold and spoiled the harvest. Before long, with their meager supply of food all but gone, the family was starving. Late one snowy night, a traveler knocked on the cabin door, seeking shelter from the biting cold. Always generous of heart, the woodcutter welcomed the stranger into his home, apologizing that he had no food to offer. With a smile, the traveler cast off his cloak to reveal the garments of a mage. As the woodcutter and his family looked on, the mysterious visitor reached into his satchel and withdrew a scroll tied with a silver ribbon. No sooner had the wizard unfurled the scroll and read the words aloud when a great feast appeared from out of thin air. That night, nobody in the woodcutter's cabin went hungry. Day by day, the snow piled up. Every night, the mage produced another scroll from his bag and read the words, each time summoning a new feast. On the fifth night, the woodcutter's wife awoke her husband to confess her mistrust of their magical guest. Surely, she argued, there was some price to pay for the magical feasts that everyone enjoyed night after night. The woodcutter would have none of it. After nearly dying from the lack of food, his family was eating well. The divines had sent them a gift, he explained, and it was foolish to question their wisdom. But the woodcutter's wife would not be persuaded. Every night she grew more fearful and more desperate. She was certain that the family had entered into a devil's bargain, and the time would soon come when the mage would ask for something unspeakable in return for his gifts. While everyone in the cabin slept, the woodcutter's wife snuck out of bed and took her husband's axe in hand. She crept into the traveler's room and with one swing lopped off his head. Suddenly the wizard's disembodied head awoke. His eyes opened wide, and when he beheld his maimed body, he let forth a terrible cry. Awakened by the horrified scream, the woodcutter and his children rushed into the room and gasped at the terrible sight of the decapitated mage. With his last gasp of breath, the traveler laid a fearful curse on the woodcutter's wife. After her mortal death, she was damned to rise once again and walk the woods alone, only to burn at the rising of the sun. To this day, those who walk the pine forest late at night tell tales of a weeping woman glimpsed between the trees. She carries a bloody axe, the stories say, and is terrifying to behold. Oh. Interesting. It's kind of wild that they wrote that, but never included it in the game. Unless it's like supposed to be a reference to maybe the Wisp Mothers, but the Wisp Mothers don't carry axes. put 5 more books on this shelf. Let's do Dunmer of Skyrim, the Woodcutter's Wife, and I'm going to go put my spell tomes on this bookshelf in here. Sparks. Cool. Okay, I got some apparel that I have to get rid of because it's too heavy. So I'm going to put this.
I am your sword and your shield.
And what was the other thing that I just had? Right, jewelry in here. All right.